Welcome to another chilling episode of True Deep Web Horror Stories. Today's story comes from an anonymous submission on Reddit's No Sleep forum, where a user shared their terrifying experience while exploring the hidden corners of the internet. As we delve into this narrative, remember that the deep web can be an unpredictable place where anonymity sometimes masks genuine threats. This particular account caught my attention because of how it begins with something seemingly innocent before spiraling into a nightmare that crossed from the digital realm into reality. It was during my sophomore year at university when I first became fascinated with the deep web. As a computer science major with too much free time and a growing curiosity about digital privacy, I had heard countless stories about this mysterious part of the internet. After attending a cybersecurity lecture that mentioned Tor networks and encryption, I decided to explore these hidden corners of the web for myself. I took precautions that seemed adequate at the time, setting up a virtual machine and ensuring my connections were properly anonymized before downloading the Tor browser. The warnings from my professors echoed in my mind, but my curiosity was stronger than my caution. My first few ventures were disappointingly mundane, mostly dead links and slow-loading pages with outdated information. For weeks, I explored various forums and marketplaces, careful to remain a silent observer rather than an active participant. I was primarily interested in the architecture of these hidden networks, studying how they maintained anonymity while still functioning as communication platforms. One evening, while following a chain of links from a relatively harmless discussion board about network security, I stumbled upon a forum that seemed different from the others. The interface was surprisingly modern compared to most deep websites, with a sleek black background and green text that reminded me of old-school hacking films. The forum called itself Watching Eyes and claimed to be a gathering place for digital observers who monitored various parts of the internet for unusual activity. At first, I assumed it was just another group of privacy enthusiasts, or possibly white hat hackers sharing information. The discussion threads seemed technical but harmless, with topics ranging from encryption methods to anonymous communication protocols. I created an account with a username completely unrelated to any of my other online identities and began browsing through the various subforums. Most conversations were technical discussions that aligned with my academic interests, so I didn't think twice about occasionally commenting on threads about network security. After about 2 weeks of casual participation, I received a private message from a user named Observer Prime, who claimed to be one of the forum administrators. The message was friendly but strangely specific, complimenting me on a paper I had recently submitted for one of my classes. This immediately set off alarm bells, as I had never mentioned my academic work on the forum. When I asked how they knew about my paper, they simply replied that Watching Eyes sees more than most realize. I convinced myself that this was just a lucky guess, or perhaps they had noticed similarities between my writing style on the forum and publications from my university. Despite my growing unease, curiosity kept me returning to the forum. Over the next few days, Observer Prime continued sending messages that revealed increasingly personal details about my life. They mentioned the coffee shop where I studied most afternoons, described the laptop stickers that identified my computer, and even referenced conversations I had with classmates. Each revelation was presented casually, as if this level of knowledge was perfectly normal. When I directly questioned how they obtained this information, their responses were vague, suggesting that everything shared online leaves traces that observers could follow. My anxiety grew with each interaction, but I told myself they were simply using basic doxing techniques, pulling information from my various social media accounts. As a precaution, I began using a different computer at the university library to access the forum, hoping to create distance between my real identity and my online activities. This seemed to work for a few days, as the messages became less personal and more focused on technical discussions. Just as my concern began to fade, I received a new message that chilled me to the core. The library computers are monitored too. We like the blue shirt you're wearing today. Looking down at my navy blue shirt, I felt my heart race as I scanned the half-empty library. No one seemed to be paying any particular attention to me, yet I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I immediately logged off, packed my belongings, and left the building, constantly looking over my shoulder. That night in my apartment, I deleted the Tor browser from all my devices and ran multiple malware scans, convinced that my systems had been compromised. For several days, I avoided my usual routines, taking different routes to classes and staying away from my regular study spots. Just as I was beginning to think I had overreacted, a printed photograph appeared under my apartment door. It showed me leaving the library that day, wearing the blue shirt, looking anxiously over my shoulder. On the back was written a simple message: observers never lose sight of interesting subjects. The handwriting was neat and precise, almost mechanical in its perfection. This crossed every line, transforming what might have been an elaborate online prank into a real-world threat. With shaking hands, I called campus security and filed a report, though I was too embarrassed to explain the full context, instead claiming I had a stalker. The security officer took my statement but didn't seem particularly concerned, suggesting it was probably just a prank by another student. He advised me to keep the photograph as evidence if anything else happened and recommended I be more careful about sharing my address online. His casual dismissal only heightened my fear, as I knew this was not a simple case of online information gathering. Someone had physically followed me and knew where I lived. That night, I stayed with a friend, too terrified to return to my apartment alone. The following morning, I received an email from an address consisting of random numbers and letters. The subject line read, "Distance won't help," and contained a single image attachment. With trembling fingers, I opened it to find a photograph of my friend's apartment building, taken from across the street with a timestamp from just a few hours earlier. This was no longer just invasion of privacy. It was clearly targeted harassment with implied threats. After showing the email to my friend, we both went directly to the local police station to file a formal report. The officers took our statements more seriously than campus security had, especially when I explained the progression from online messages to physical stalking. They assigned an officer to patrol the area around both apartments and advised me to document any further contact. They also suggested I reach out to the university's IT department to check if my accounts had been compromised. With some official support in place, I felt slightly safer, but remained constantly vigilant, jumping at unexpected sounds and avoiding walking alone whenever possible. Every instinct told me to throw the drive away, but the possibility that it contained information about who was targeting me proved too tempting. Using a secure computer in the university's cybersecurity lab, with the permission and supervision of one of my professors who specialized in digital forensics, we examined the contents of the drive. What we found was disturbing beyond anything I had anticipated. The drive contained dozens of photographs of me taken over the past month, screenshots of my private conversations, and a detailed document outlining my daily routines, preferences, and habits. More alarmingly, it also included similar files on several other individuals, suggesting I was not the only target of this group. My professor immediately contacted law enforcement, who took possession of the drive as evidence. The investigation that followed revealed that Watching Eyes was not just a forum, but a network of individuals who selected targets for what they called digital observation exercises. These exercises progressively escalated from online monitoring to real-world surveillance, with the goal of demonstrating how vulnerable people's privacy truly was in the modern connected world. Several members of the network were eventually identified and face charges ranging from stalking to cybercrime and harassment. The experience left me with a profound sense of vulnerability that persists to this day. I've since become extremely cautious about my online presence, minimizing personal information on social media, and using strong security measures for all my accounts. The deep web, once a source of fascination, now represents a boundary I have no desire to cross again. While most users of anonymous networks are simply seeking privacy, there are those who use that same anonymity as a shield for predatory behavior. My story serves as a warning about the thin line between digital exploration and placing yourself in the sights of those who watch from the shadows.